Okay, everybody all set? Awesome. All right, so we'll call our annual meeting to order. To introduce myself, my name is Bob Rosh. I'm the current school board president. I should say I'm the proud school board president because it's a great opportunity to serve on this school board. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank my outstanding partners on the school board. And if you could just kind of show your hand as I call your name. Again, my name is Bob Rosh. I represent the Swallow School District. Kent Rice represents the Richmond School District. Sue Schultz represents the North Lake District. Craig Thompson is one of our two at-large members. Daryl Beneker represents the Lake Country School District. Donna Behringer represents the Heartland Lakeside. Dave Dean, is Dave with us?
He's on computer.
Perfect, okay, so Dave Dean is our other at-large member. Amy Hammer is our Merton School Board rep, and Tim Langer is our Stonebank School Board rep. And just for a point of clarification, back when the COVID stuff started, we weren't sure if we were going to have to get into the virtual board meetings. We've not done that. But one of the provisions we added under legal advice is to have a notation on our agendas that a board member could join us virtually. So Dave Dean is actually listening in on the computer here. He's just got some other things he needs to take care of. He couldn't be here, but he is allowed to vote via that virtual connection as well. So I would like to call the meeting to order. If you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is right over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to all of our community members that joined us tonight. Thank you for being part of it. You had great questions. If we could follow up on any of the questions that our staff was answering for you, we absolutely do that. Our first order of business is the election of a chairperson. The person so elected may or may not be a member of the school board. If the meeting is adjourned to another date, the same chairperson will preside. Before I ask for a motion, I did want to introduce Laura Meyer as our school superintendent. Obviously, you met Jeff Gross as our business manager. And Kate is a new member this year. She's our support staff for the school board and for the administration team. So if you make a motion or second a motion, can you please make sure you state your name so she can capture it correctly for the minutes, okay? So I'll open up the floor for nominations for the chairperson for the annual meeting.
I move that Bob Rosh be the chairperson.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Bob Rosh to be the chairperson. Do we have any motions, other motions from the floor? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. The next item is the treasurer's report is summarized on pages 13 through 17 in the annual report document. The complete treasurer's report will be available in the district office when the 2019-2020 audit is complete. So if anybody has any questions about that, Jeff, I think covered pretty much most of it in his presentation earlier. But if there's any other questions, we'd be able to help you out with those. Okay. Moving on, review of the 2019-2020 school year, so I'll ask Laura to take care of that.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you all for being here. For me, this is the really fun part of the evening because it's celebrating everything that happens at Arrowhead. Arrowhead has a vision and a mission. Our vision is to be an educational leader in creating pathways for students to embrace the opportunities of tomorrow. And in order to reach that vision, our mission is to empower students to be engaged, confident, continuous learners who utilize the essential skills to collaborate and contribute within the local and global community. To achieve that mission and vision, we strive toward 4 enduring goals. These are long-term goals for our school. We want to prepare students not only to be successful in high school, but for success beyond high school graduation. We foster and nurture a positive learning environment. We communicate effectively, and we hope to advance facility infrastructure and technology to support student learning. Those are ongoing goals. Some of those we may never achieve because we're always striving for continuous improvement. And that vision, mission, and enduring goals makes up what we call our focus plan. It's not a 300-page strategic plan that sits in a binder on a shelf. It's actually a living document that's dynamic and a one-page area of focus for us. Jeff Gross already talked a lot about the financial piece, so I'm going to highlight very quickly. Over the last 12 years, the district has reduced its budget by over $5 million. We maintain that Moody's AA1 rating that Jeff talked about, which is better than 90% of the school districts in Wisconsin. Our fund balance is healthy. It's over 30%. The slide is over 25% because I think that's a goal for many districts to have 25% in fund balance. Ours is stronger than that. But we also fully recognize we've been needing to dip into that fund balance for one-time improvements over and over and over again. Employee benefit changes since the 2011-2012 school year have resulted in an annual cost savings of approximately $2.5 million to help balance our budget. And despite increasing operational costs, our per pupil expense remains right about the state average. You've seen these numbers already in Jeff's presentation. I'll just comment that maximum revenue authority, when you compare with union high school districts, the 10 union high school districts in Wisconsin, we have the lowest amount of funding. Our mill rate is very low. Now, to compare Arrowhead's mill rate at $2.88 with the Wisconsin average of $9.34, that's not an apples to apples comparison since we are just a high school. So I've shown you that Arrowhead and the average K-8 district combined, the mill rate would be $7.83 versus the state average at 9.34. So we are a lower taxed, lower spending region. And then comparing to closer to home, instead of just those 10 union high schools, Jeff showed these same numbers. Looking at Waukesha County school districts, Arrowhead receives $1,614 less per student than the highest, the district with the highest taxing authority of Elmbrook. So we have $3.4 million less per year to educate Arrowhead students than just down the road in Brookfield. Continuing on with a little bit of property tax information that may come to a surprise to some of you. The part of your property tax bill that's the Arrowhead portion, that includes, this last year, that included $310,000 that actually did not come to Arrowhead. It went to private schools. Private school vouchers, the special needs scholarship vouchers, private school transportation contracts, Milwaukee Charter School Program, and we're projecting that number to stay about the same or go up a little bit to $312,000 from your property tax bill that doesn't come to Arrowhead, even though it lists it as Arrowhead on that bill. And there's other federal grant money. You saw in Jeff's presentation, our federal grant money is less than 0.5% of our budget, but some of that goes to the private schools for equitable services. So federal grants, private schools get equitable services. So though we're low spending and low taxing, our student achievement is consistently extremely high. The numbers, most of the numbers you'll see for student data in this slide presentation are lagging behind about a year because the Department of Public Instruction's data lags about a year behind. So in order to show comparisons, we're looking at 2019 school, the end of the 2019 school year rather than the current school year. So ACT average composite score for graduates, so those are the seniors moving on. They can choose to take this. It's not the state required component of the ACT. And you can see from the list, we're very strong in that. The ACT average composite for all juniors is the state required test. So every junior in a public school in Wisconsin takes that ACT as a standardized test. Our scores are very strong. And then AP exams are for advanced placements. Advanced placement classes are college level classes that are taught in high schools. And if the student earns a passing score, so on a scale of 1 to 5, if the student earns a 3, 4, or 5 on that advanced placement exam, they actually can earn college credit. If they go to college, they may be able to get some credit for that. Arrowhead's passing scores for advanced placement or AP exams are consistently between 90% passing rate to about 93% passing rate. And you can see that's actually quite a bit higher than most of our neighboring districts in our county. That's kudos to our teachers that are teaching very challenging curriculum, and it's kudos to our students who are really learning and studying at a college level. These are the kind of hot off the press advanced placement scores just for Arrowhead for this last school year. Again, DPI, the Department of Public Instruction, has not published the scores for all districts yet, but we have our own information, so you can see we're right about that 90, 91%. 1,264 AP exams were taken by students. So we have a lot of students that are challenging themselves with college level coursework. And success in school isn't just about academics. There's other things that are important, like for instance, showing up at school and continuing and graduating. Our graduation rate for 4 years is 98.6%. The state always shows a 4-year and a 5-year percentage because some students take 5 years, particularly students that have special education needs or special programming. So you can see we have a high graduation rate. Post-employment, or not post-employment, but post-high school enrollment, those numbers are interesting in terms of we have 79.5% of our 2019 graduates were going on to college, one form of college or another, where the state average is 58%. Of those students, of the graduating class, that 80% that was going on to college, about 90% went to a 4-year school, about 9% to a 2-year college, and there was a little less than 1% that actually did some coursework in both a 4-year school and a 2-year school. Our attendance rate is strong, percentage-wise, 0 dropouts in 2019. Our chronic absenteeism rate is quite a bit lower than the state average of 13, and we are less than 2%. And discipline rate, they look at students who have had an office referral for a more significant behavioral issue. The average in Wisconsin would be 8.5% of students qualify as a discipline problem. Our area or our school is much lower at 2%. Some academic highlights and recognitions. 70% of Arrowhead's 2019 graduating class earned a GPA of 3.0 or higher. The U.S. News and World Report again named Arrowhead as a best high school in the nation, and a new category this year is top STEM schools, science, technology, engineering, and math. And Arrowhead was a top STEM school, in fact, in the top 1% across the nation. The Washington Post again named Arrowhead as one of the most challenging high schools. That's because of all those advanced placement courses we offer and the scores students earn. The state accountability report card, our school earned a significantly exceeds expectations category or label, which is the highest you can receive. And just to brag about some of our students, and we put their picture in there, we had 8 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. Out of just 16,000 across the whole country, 8 were from Arrowhead and 2 of them were finalists. Part of the Arrowhead experience is helping others. Community service is important to our school, it's important to our community, and I think it's important to our kids. They probably reap as many rewards from their community service as the community reaps from them doing service. So just a few examples. Arrowhead is a real fan of veterans. So veterans were supported through our annual Veterans Day breakfast, letter writing to veterans, and unfortunately several of the community service projects that we do with veterans on an annual basis, like helping out with the honor flight, holding a spaghetti dinner to raise money for veterans and honor flight, those had to be canceled due to COVID-19. Another way students and faculty supported others, we actually were highlighted on the Good Morning America TV show, so national recognition for being leaders in helping younger children at the elementary level to understand the dangers of vaping. Helping others is just part of what we do on an annual basis. Arrowhead clubs, classes, and athletic groups typically volunteer to do at least 150, sometimes as high as 180 projects, contributing well over 10,000 volunteer hours by our students each year. This last year, projects included everything from fundraising for a school and orphanage in the Dominican Republic to our basketball team raising $2,000 for various childhood cancer organizations. And more local was creating and donating fleece blankets to the Women's Center right in Waukesha. So from nearby to faraway countries, we are trying to help. And our year ended in such an interesting manner. It was challenging, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention our 2020 graduation. Rather than having our 550 graduates out on the football field and their 4,000 to 5,000 family members and friends in the stadium, we spent 5 days celebrating those graduates, essentially one by one by one. And we were able to pull off a mix of in-person and virtual celebrations. There were speeches. Each student did get to walk across this stage with family members present. They had their photo taken. There was video recordings. You can see in the picture there was a photo sign, a congratulations sign for every graduate placed on campus. We have virtual tassel and hat toss ceremony. A graduation car parade on a Saturday morning, which was wonderful for those students to see community members out waving and cheering them on. And all of those activities were live streamed for family members near and far to watch, and they also were combined into a commemorative video for those 2020 graduates and their families to savor over the years. Part of the Arrowhead experience is building connections. We have 2,100 students. We're one of the largest 5 or 6 high schools in the whole state. We want to make sure that none of those students fall between the cracks. And so making connections, personal relationships with them is very important. So just a few examples of how students and staff build relationships with each other. Our school year started out with a Starts With Hello campaign. And simply smiling and saying hello in the hallways shows Arrowhead's a friendly place. And we had staff members and students just trying to get in the habit of when you're walking through the hall, rather than just passing someone, say hello and smile. Our principal and associate principals started using mobile desks in the hallways. So if they were working on, let's say, emails, where they didn't have to be in private in their office, they were using their laptops on these mobile desks. And that way they were accessible to students and staff, very visible. People loved that. Our principal and associate principals also met with every freshman student in groups of 6 or 8. So as freshmen come in and high school is big and scary, those administrators are getting to know them, bond with them. So that's great for our students. Staff members send postcards, hundreds of postcards to students, just to give them an extra pat on the back. And our Wings is a 3-day orientation program where freshmen bond with classmates, peer mentors, and faculty members. In fact, the first day of this year's Wings was today. Arrowhead is very strong in the area of co-curriculars. We actually offer more co-curricular opportunities for students in our high school than most colleges in the state of Wisconsin. We have 30 different sports to choose from, 75 teams within 30 sports, and typically 50 clubs a year. So some co-curricular highlights. A dozen students and one coach were nominated as top athletes in the Journal Sentinel High School Sports Award program. Dozens of our writers had their pieces of writing, fiction, nonfiction, and poetry published in multiple different periodicals. One of them is Teen Link, which is a national one. 7 of our art students won the Scholastic Arts Awards, and that's the, I guess for high school students, that's the most prestigious in the state of Wisconsin. And one of the paintings is there for your pleasure from a student. And Marvin and Max Marriott were named as the very first ever recipients of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel High School Special Olympics IM Sports Awards, and they were so proud. We're very proud of them. More co-curricular highlights. Our state championship team winners included girls volleyball, first time in school history, and boys ski team, which was something like 6th or 7th time in a row. State individual champs included 4 wrestlers, 4 state champions on 1 wrestling team. I would contend we would have had more state championships, but then COVID shut down athletics. Arrowhead was recently ranked as the 3rd best high school for athletic programs in the country by niche publications. Speaking of the wrestling team, senior Keegan O'Toole was a 4-time state wrestling champ. That's only ever happened 18 times in the state of Wisconsin and only 3 times in Division I. And he was named the top high school wrestler in the USA. That has not happened for Arrowhead. Even with Ben Askren, famously known for wrestling, Ben didn't win that award, but Keegan has. And senior Aubrey Hamilton, another superstar. She is a volleyball player who was named the Gatorade State Player of the Year. Just a few examples of many successful students and teams and programs. And just a few examples of staff recognitions. Deb Peridowski, who is with us today, our South Campus Associate Principal, was named the National Association of Secondary School Principals Associate Principal of the Year. And it's the first time a Wisconsin Associate Principal has been named the National Associate of the Year. So congratulations to Deb. Mr. Dave Olenchek, a math teacher and math program leader, earned a Cole Foundation Fellowships Award. That means $6,000 went to Dave for himself, and another $6,000 was able to go into the Arrowhead math program. Mr. Jeremy Schlitz, he's a tech ed teacher here at Arrowhead. He was recognized nationally by Honored.com. That came with a $5,000 award for himself and $1,000 he was able to gift to other teachers' projects. So he was able to feel like Santa Claus and give money away that wasn't his own. And finally, the Arrowhead experience is really supported by you, the generous community and supportive community. Our many volunteers and donors and supportive community members are the backbone of the Arrowhead experience. We couldn't be what we are as a school without the support of our community. One example is the Arrowhead Scholarship Foundation. Gave over $62,000 in scholarships this year, all from donations to over 70 graduating seniors. And during the 2019-2020 school year, many thousands of dollars were donated by generous individuals and organizations to Arrowhead for different projects, initiatives, and departments in our school, such as the Mullet Ice Center and the ice hockey families. Athletic and co-curricular clubs received donations. Graduation celebrations, design, engineering, manufacturing received donations, and the Veterans Day breakfast received donations to help make that work. So our next school year, coming up in just a couple of weeks, will be challenging. Running school in the time of a pandemic adds a lot of extra challenges, but it also adds a lot of extra learning. And regardless of those challenges, we will focus on our mission, which is to empower students to be engaged, confident, continuous learners who utilize the essential skills to collaborate and contribute within the local and global community. Pandemic's not going to get us down or set us back. So in the year ahead, we'll continue to focus on college, career, and life readiness through our academic rigor, social and emotional, and life skills enhancement, our positive learning culture, integrating technology to support learning, and our academic and career exploration for students. We will focus on support services for individual students in the area of academic, social, and/or emotional needs. Those emotional needs have become even more important during a pandemic time, and we're aware of that, so we're offering extra supports for our students and also for families this year. And finally, this coming school year, we will focus on providing an excellent education during a health pandemic, and we are offering the choice of attending school in person 5 days a week or virtually 5 days a week. That's the end of my presentation, so thank you for your interest and support of our school. If you have any questions, I can take those. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Bob Rosh, our chairperson this evening. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Laura. You know, to be able to share with the community members that are here, to say this, the end of this past school year was amazing is an understatement. And so much credit needs to go to our staff, whether it's the administrative staff, the teaching staff, the support staff, everybody that works within these buildings, what they've accomplished in really a short period of time, the last 3 months of the school year. And literally from that point on, rolling up into what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, has just been unbelievable. Nothing like that's ever been experienced, certainly in our school, probably, I'd venture to say any school district anywhere. So kudos to those. We obviously have the opportunity to see this day in and day out because of our involvement with the school board, and it's not necessarily always out to the public, but you just got to understand the level of appreciation that we have for our staff, and we hope you have that as well. So thank you for all that information, Laura, and even what she presented is just a brushstroke of what goes on in these buildings. It's just incredible. So thank you for that. That's what makes us want to serve on the school board. All these folks that are on the board are so committed to Arrowhead and the success of our students. And even though, you know, obviously the data shows that the majority of our students go on to four-year college, Laura specifically mentioned 2,000 kids in our buildings. We don't let anybody fall through the crack, regardless of where they may end up post-graduation. So we're here to support them in every capacity that we can. So moving on, the next action item is a procedure to set the annual meeting date, and I would entertain a motion to allow the Board of Education to set the date and time frame sometime between May 15th and October 31st of 2021.
So
So a motion by Tim and second by Daryl. Okay. Any questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is just old business. If we have any questions regarding last year's operation, will be answered as best possible. So if anybody has any questions about our operation. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to new business. First action item under new business is district-owned textbooks. It's recommended that we have a textbook rental rate of $55. So I will entertain a motion to approve that rate. Motion by Sue, second by Tim. Any questions on that? Yes, sir.
Is the district still charging lab fees, workbook fees, fees this, fees that,
Yes,
in addition to the textbook fee?
correct. Yeah, there's consumable fees that are applied across.
What does that average per student? $100, $300?
It could depend if they want a parking pass, that could skew the number a little bit.
Well, I'd exclude that.
Yeah, but most of the fees for classrooms are probably $7 to $10 range, depending on,
15, 20.
yeah, depending on what the consumable is that they use.
Well, I don't know what the requirement is that you segregate it, but it doesn't make any sense to segregate it. We'll go on and total, is my recommendation.
Okay. So we have a motion to second to set that, the fee at $55. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aye. Next date, motion carries. Next action item is salary of the school board members. The annual meeting establishes the salary of the school board members. At the present time, the annual salaries are established at $3,400 per board member every year. There's no other benefits or payments other than that stipend. Yes, sir.
I move that the salary be set for the next year at the same $3,400.
Okay, we have a motion for $3,400 is a second.
Second.
Craig Thompson, second. Any questions on that?
Steve, I hope.
Steve Evans. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, state aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next action item, there's a couple of them, we'll do one at a time. The tax levy for the ensuing year, I should say. The first one is the tax levy for the capital expansion fund. The resolution for that is on page 22 in the paperwork. And the amount of $300,000 is recommended for the ensuing school year. And just as a reminder, when we do building projects, if a project is scheduled to get done and it can't be done before June 30th, this fund allows us to carry that money over into the next school year because that project may get done in August, as an example. So that's what Fund 41 does. So the recommendation is to be at $300,000.
I move that we adopt the resolution.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the $300,000 for the capital expansion fund. All in favor, state aye. I'm sorry.
Just a question first.
Yeah, go ahead.
We approved at this meeting last year $350,000, and yet somehow it got changed to $300,000 sometime within the year. By what authority and why was it changed?
300. I'm not sure if we established it at 350 this last year, that would have been spent.
Well, it wasn't. Again, the minutes for last year say I made the motion and at 350, it was passed at 350. And all the budget documentation says 300
This current,
for 1920. So is it not binding?
No, this is because at October is when the board actually sets the final levy.
okay.
It's about a $50,000 adjustment to it.
Okay, all right. So what Jeff is saying is what we approved like in April and what we approve now is a pending number until we get the final levy from the state in October. So when we vote in October, there could be some adjustments to it. So they probably brought it down at $50,000.
But again, this is in an environment when we're saying we don't have enough money to keep the place running. So I don't get it.
Right, but we have to make those budget adjustments once we have the final numbers from the state to be within that
Well,
revenue limit.
Change the tax levy, but not for that particular fund.
No, you still have to, if we're getting less, either less aid or different adjustments from the state, we have to adjust our budget down to what our max tax levy can be, based on kind of what Jeff was showing in those other charts.
I'll let it go.
Okay?
Move on to the guys.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor of $300,000, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next action item is a tax levy for operations and long-term debt service in the amount of $16,914,147 as recommended for the ensuing school year. The total 2020-2021 tax levy is proposed to be $17,331,237 with the inclusion of the capital expansion fund which we just approved. So I would entertain a motion to approve that tax levy.
I move that the levy be set at $16.5 million.
Okay, we have a motion to set it at 16.5. Do we have a second? Do we have a second to that motion? Do we have a second to that motion? We do not have a second to the motion, so I'll entertain another motion. I'll make the motion that we set the tax levy at $16,914,147.
Second.
We have a second? Any questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Any other new business? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn our annual meeting.
Second.
We have a motion. Yeah, you got those, Kate? Sue, yeah.
Seconded by Daryl.
And second. All in favor state aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.